This week, we again cross over with Kumar and Jordan's Comic Book Movie Oblivion podcast to discuss the 2005 Fantastic Four movie, part of our Tim Catches Up with the Fantastic Four series leading up to this summer's Fantastic Four First Steps. How was the 2005 film better than the unreleased 1994 Roger Corman production? Or is it better at all? We also talk a bit about some 1980s FF comics from my high school days. First, I'd like to thank our patrons for helping to keep the show going. You can pitch in by pledging at least $2 a month at patreon.com/deconcomics. This is Tim.
This is Kumar.
This is Jordan.
And this is Deconstructing Comics and Comic Book Movie Oblivion. Welcome to Deconstructing Comics, crossing over again this week with Comic Book Movie Oblivion. Welcome, Kumar and Jordan.
Hello.
Thank you.
And we're continuing our series on Fantastic Four movies, anticipating the new one coming out this summer. This time we're talking about the 2005 Fantastic Four, the first of the two produced by Fox.
Can I insert a bit of news here before we get into the discussion? Not news, a tidbit.
All right.
On YouTube, the Deconstructing Comics episodes on Fantastic Four 1994 have 500 views, like 505 and 496.
Yeah, because I did it as two-parter.
You did it as two-parters. Our version has 43 views.
Okay, well...
But they're the same. Well, actually, they're not. Yeah,
they're not the same.
They're not the same. Tim does
did a very good job
of editing.
Well, yeah, mine had clips.
Yes, exactly.
It's like Loverboy is not quite feeling himself today.
Yeah. Yep.
I put my To the Bat Poles experience into putting that one together. Put in so many clips and shows from Batman 66 and things related to it.
Okay.
Yeah, so there you go. If you're listening to this on YouTube and on the Comic Book Movie Oblivion channel, jump on over to Deconstructing Comics.
That's where everybody else is.
Yeah, and I thought I would have the upper hand because I put the whole episode up at once. I thought, people would be gagging to hear the whole episode.
Part 2 straight away. No, apparently not. Oh, well.
Yeah. And also there are several timely things about the recording of this particular movie this week, some of which I planned and some which were not planned. But there was like 4 things that really struck me, but maybe I'll try to remember them as we go through.
Okay.
Rather than front-loading all of them.
Okay.
Okay, so I guess we should talk about the comics first. So I chose 3 issues for this week.
Yeah, what I'm interested in why you chose these. These are all from when I was in high school. My brother and I owned all these. They're probably still
amazing.
Sitting in Paul's closet.
I have some of I have some physical copies of some of these.
Oh, nice.
Well, it's a bit hard to explain. I was a Superman guy, and when I started collecting comics in 86, 87, the thing that was coming out right then was Man of Steel and Superman #1 by John Byrne over at DC. And I really love those comics, but have kind of reevaluated them since. But somehow I got a stack. I think I bought a pile of comics, somebody got a stack of these Fantastic Four single issues, and I read all these, and I love John Byrne's art style, and I thought these were quite interesting. And this issue stuck out in memory because number 258, it's got like Dr. Doom's steel glove on the cover, and he's like ripping the cover, and you can see the page 1 underneath, and his reflection is in the steel. And the Fantastic Four is not in this issue.
Yeah.
It's all Dr. Doom, and I thought it was really a neat thing when I read it at the time.
Sort of a day in the life of Doom.
Yes, exactly. And it also, I didn't realize at the time, because I got like 10 random issues of John Byrne's Fantastic Four run. It's kind of a follow-up to the earlier issue, which was, what did I say, it was 247. So it's kind of a sequel to that in some ways. So that's how I ended up choosing those 2. And the other one I chose was a Marvel Fanfare, number 15. We'll talk about that one in a second. But Byrne, Okay, so he worked on Fantastic Four for 5 years, from I think like 81 to 85 or 86.
Mm-hmm.
He had a very long run, probably the longest run of anybody after that first 100 issues by Lee Kirby.
Mm-hmm.
And it's kind of a lauded run. It's got his art style has never changed in like 50 years. He draws everybody has the same face. Even when little baby Franklin comes in, he has this grown-up's face. It's really creepy and weird.
Well, it just goes to, the long tradition of comics artists who can't draw kids.
Yes. They're super dialogue heavy. Like there's just reams of dialogue. He cheats on backgrounds a lot. Like you usually draw one background on a page and then the rest will just have like a single color. But he used to write pencil and ink all his comics himself. The only other person involved was basically Glennis Wein was the one coloring it. I think her work, like most colorists, has been erased. It's been like recolored for all the new editions, etc., whatever. But okay, so now I think Jordan, I have a question for you because I think you've learned quite a lot about comics in the past 120 weeks.
I should hope so.
Can you take a guess of why John Byrne left Marvel? I'll give you a hint. The year is 1985-86. He leaves Fantastic Four and goes over and starts working on Superman. What would the reason be at Marvel that he would leave Marvel?
Does it start with J and end
Starts with a J.
And end with Im Shooter?
It does end with Im Shooter. You are correct. Well done. Well done, young Padawan. Okay, so yeah, he left. And he slowly got more eccentric, and now he's like an incel type. Like a MAGA incel type. Anytime a creator has like a controversy section on Wikipedia, you know you're in trouble. And it's kind of made me. He said so many gross things, and it's made me go back and you look at his run on Superman, and he made this change to the origin where Superman was put in this thing called a birthing matrix, the embryo, and was sent to Earth, and then was born on Earth. So he's not an immigrant. This is a really important key point for John Byrne. He was born in the USA. He's an American.
Right, because he has birthright citizenship.
Yeah, and John Byrne was like born in England and then migrated to Canada and then ended up in the US. And he's like, well, that's how people should do it. And he's like a white dude. This is very easy for him to come down from Canada to the US. Not like anyway, so that's kind of where we're at with him. But I thought his run on Fantastic Four, what I read of it was really great. He's the one that turned Invisible Girl into Invisible Woman. He destroyed the Baxter Building at some stage and replaced it with Four Freedoms Plaza. He replaced the Thing with She-Hulk for a while. She was on the team. Yeah. A lot of interesting stuff. The Thing Alicia relationship broke up and she started seeing Torch. That was like a lot of interesting.
That's really weird.
Yeah, but it's a lot of interesting family. He brought a lot of that family dynamic stuff back to it, which was what the book was about in the first place.
Good point. Yeah.
And he did kind of develop Doctor Doom into the guy that we see in these issues. And this was my first timely thing about it was I felt like we see Doctor Doom has been brought back from the dead when we enter this storyline, and his country Latveria is in ruins because he has been away and he's been usurped.
I couldn't help kind of comparing this to a certain view on current events.
Oh, yes absolutely. Because they're like, the Fantastic Four, they're like, you're a dictator, you're a horrible person. And this kid, little kid accidentally bumped into Doom, and Doom is like about to strangle this kid to death, we think. But then the kid's mother runs out, and she's like all grateful, like, our Lord, you're back. She's so happy that this dictator is back.
Yeah, Doom's been dead about a week.
Yeah.
And his country's just absolutely fallen apart.
Yeah. I think they say it's a few months, but she's like
and all these buildings are on fire and everyone's poor now when formerly they were rich.
Yep. And they were apparently it was all peaceful. There was no crime apparently because he ruled with an iron fist almost literally. Yep. And she's really grateful and seems oblivious to how evil this guy is. And the Fantastic Four can't believe it. They're like, why is this woman worshiping him? And also, they start second guessing themselves. Like, is Doom actually like a good?
Did we do the right
ruler?
thing deposing him?
Yeah.
Because he's been usurped by, well, Doom himself is a usurper. He's a commoner, I think, and he seized the throne of Latveria in this continuity. But the rightful king, who is the brother of the one that Doom replaced, has come back, and the Fantastic Four assisted in Doom's ouster, and kind of like in supporting the ascension of this. He's called, what's he called, Torgo or Torbo or something?
Oh, yeah, I can't remember, something like that.
Anyway, he has a laser eye.
Yes.
Anyway, and they're second guessing themselves. Did we do the right thing?
Yeah.
Sure, they didn't have freedom, but they're pretty miserable and poor now. What could this mean?
Yes, and he claims he eliminated the hereditary monarchy. He also says that he protected the country from falling to the communist nations that are surrounding it.
It's very 80s.
He also says he modernized them, like he brought in new technology and all this stuff, and nobody was ever starving or hungry, etc. All this kind of stuff.
By the way, I don't think we mentioned we're talking about issue 247.
Yes, yeah.
And by the way, I have to say this. So this issue, I think totally by coincidence, came out as the band Heart had a song on the charts called "This Man Is Mine."
Okay.
And as soon as my brother and I saw this cover, we were going, "This man is mine. This land is mine." It says "land" on "This land is mine" on the cover, and we were just singing that.
Okay,
right
so
away.
you were reading these when they were coming out.
Oh yeah,
a piece of living history here from Tim.
Okay, so you read
when this comic came out. I was 2 years old.
Right.
I think we bought them when I got into college. I kind of drifted away from reading comics, but I think my brother bought them all. I started college in '83 and tried to read off and on, but by my junior year, I was pretty much not reading comics anymore.
Right. But you have read this run, and you see you've read these issues.
Yeah. This is summer between junior and senior year of high school.
I actually felt like this was a surprising, interesting portrayal of Doom, and I felt like it did a good job because the even Sue Storm at one stage says Doom is a natural leader, and Reed needs to be careful because Doom can convince these people, and Reed can't because Reed doesn't have that kind of charisma. And I was kind of like, I was also starting to wonder about Doom. Like, is he really that bad a guy? If you forget all the previous issues.
Yeah, especially the other issue, the one that's all Doom. You kind of feel like, he's got a good side. He's not such a bad guy.
That's right. He's got a couple of sides. He has a bad side for sure. Like chokes that kid again.
Yeah,
like
he chokes at that kid twice in 2 comics.
Yes,
he's not a goodie, but it's this age-old question. This comic is hardly the first or the most sophisticated attempt to come to grips with the question of, if you replace something bad, is something worse going to come after?
Yes,
and this comic is saying yes. They got rid of Doom. Doom is evil, but when they got rid of him, someone worse appeared. So perhaps they shouldn't have meddled to begin with, which is fine.
Yeah,
we've seen it in many media. Yeah,
worse in terms of being inept. I think this Zorba.
Well, he's also. He's pretty oppressive himself, isn't he? He sends the robots.
Yeah,
he's got the killer robots, Doom's killer robots.
And they look just like Sentinels, and I wasn't sure if there was some connection there.
There's only so many ways you can draw a robot.
Byrne just forgot which comic he was working on.
Did Byrne design this? Oh, he did design the Sentinels too, didn't he? Days of Future Past storyline, right?
I'm trying to think if they existed before the Byrne run on X-Men. I kind of think they did.
Oh, okay.
In the in the 70s, whenever.
Okay. Yeah, because he did have an important run on X-Men with Chris Claremont writing, but that made him kind of a star, I guess, during that period that he got the Fantastic Four gig. I don't know if we need to say anything more about that. I did want to say, so I added Marvel Fanfare 15 to the pile. This is my favorite Fantastic Four story.
That's great.
It's just Johnny Storm playing pranks on Ben Grimm for like 15 pages. I only added it to the pile because to me it is like what that relationship is supposed to be like. It really encapsulates it really perfectly in 10 or 15 pages, and it's drawn by Barry Windsor Smith, and it's like the most it's peak. Well, he's never left his peak, but it's just so beautifully drawn for such a strangely fun but silly and compact and really effective little story.
And I thought it was appropriate you chose this one because I think that's one of the things this movie does best.
Yes.
Yep.
It's in the movie for sure. And I wasn't sure it was going to be in there, but I was like, this is a test to make sure.
Much more than the 1994 movie didn't really go there much.
Yeah. I
familial.
That one was, wasn't that one 90 minutes or less? I think it was like
slightly less. I think it was about 85 minutes.
Yeah.
And there's not a lot of time for that, for the familial squabbling.
Although this movie's not much longer. It's like an hour and 45 minutes.
Yeah, so it's like 10 minutes of credits. Yeah.
And of course, and not much happens in this movie, so there's more time for for interpersonal conflict.
Yes.
But we'll get into that.
Yeah.
But yes, I really enjoyed this comic a lot. I think the thing is great.
Yeah.
I love the thing. Like Johnny Storm, I think puts cut up straws in.
Yeah, like drinking straws. He pastes them to his face while he's asleep. So he wakes up and he looks in the mirror and he's really sleepy and he thinks he's grown a beard and he's about to report it to Reed that like there's been a change. Maybe I'm turning human again. And then he realizes. And he just set all these traps for him around the house. Like the pancakes are like set on like a spring that explode onto his face and put a kick me sign on his back and
he put roller skates and skateboards and all sorts of wheeled toys down in the corridor, and he sent scooting down the Baxter building, and he passes through all of these posters, I suppose. One's of Doctor Doom.
Yeah.
Another one's another
Super Skrull.
A Super Skrull. And the final one's Herbie the robot.
Yes. Yeah.
That's the only one that truly horrifies him.
Yeah.
And then he lands in, I guess, a ball pit or something right in the middle of the Baxter building.
Yeah.
And he's just about out of his mind at this point. And then all these TVs turn on and it's Johnny's face. And he says, "April Fools!"
Yeah.
Except it's not even April. It's still March.
Yeah, he's miscalculated. And so Ben sets up this huge trap where he's going to like pipe all this water into Johnny's room as soon as he makes a sound of any sort. And then he goes to relax and just enjoy the chaos that he thinks is going to unfold. And he picks up a cigar out of the box. And we know from the first page that these cigars have been tampered with. And that's how it ends with him lighting.
They're going to explode.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. I guess I didn't catch that.
Yeah. Because he says, now all I got to do is relax, have a cigar, sit back, and wait for the fireworks to begin.
Yes. And there's a firework in the cigar. Like,
yes.
Johnny's booby trapped. And then it's left ambiguous what's going to happen. Is that, I mean, we know that a sound, he set up a device that if it hears a loud noise or any kind of noise, it will dump the water on Johnny. Yeah. He says all he has to do is cough or snore and then, the party will begin. And but we know that it's going to be set off prematurely by this exploding cigar.
Yeah, I'd completely forgotten about that first page by then.
Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty subtle, the first page, because he's like setting the spring for the pancakes and all sorts of little stuff is in there.
It's hard to tell what's going on. Like, I didn't know what those straws were, for example.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
In fact, I don't think it was until the Thing himself plucks at one of them and says, "Oh, it's a drinking straw."
Yeah.
That it became obvious that that's what had happened. Yeah. But yes, I did enjoy this one. It's fun.
Yeah.
Since like last time we recorded, we spoke about kind of where a Fantastic Four was original. It was in the transition from one-dimensional to two-dimensional characters. Yes. And we have this family that oscillates between solidarity and conflict. And we have a fun little vignette. There's no villains. There's no Galactus.
Yeah.
It's just a beautifully drawn Barry Windsor Smith comic with Johnny pulling tricks.
Yeah. It's really great. Okay, well, I guess we can get into the movie.
Well, did we? Yeah, I guess so. We mentioned the first comic, and we've mentioned the Pranks comic. There's one in the interim, right? The one that you mentioned with the cover with the hand. So it's the day in the life of Doom. Did we want to talk about that much at all?
No, I don't know. I just put these in here to get a sense of who Doctor Doom is supposed to be.
Right.
Because I knew coming into this movie that it was not going to be the Doctor Doom we know and love.
No. Well, he's amazing in that day in the life comic.
Yes.
He's just so... Is flamboyant the word? He's so grandiose, so grandiloquent. You know,
yes.
At one point he says, who dares disturb Doom at table?
Yes. Yes.
And he's eating his breakfast.
Yeah, he actually holds audience for his subjects. Like he sits on his throne and they come in one by one with pleas for this or that or whatever. And then sometimes he just his temper, he just absolutely explodes. Yeah. Like there's a moment where a Doom robot, he inspects his Doom robots, and one of them has a little scratch on his armor, and he says, "Look, what's that from?" And the Doom robot says, "Well, the X-Men villain Arcade lit a match on my armor." And of
course, there's a footnote.
Did you kill him?
What issue?
Doom says, "And did you execute him for this insolence?"
He was like, "No, I thought you might be able to make use of him later."
He said, "I thought you might have need of him in the future." Yeah. And then the robot just melts.
Yes.
In a series of like 3 panels. And then Doom says, Doom needs no one.
Yes. Yeah.
Look,
yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
It does really capture his character.
Yeah.
Another time he has a scientist working on the capturing the power cosmic for him in a sort of a fridge, which is a little bit like what happens in the film actually with the cosmic storm.
That's true. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And this scientist is someone working under duress, essentially. He tells Doom that he's perfected the machine, and Doom promptly throws him into it.
Throws him into it. Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
It says, soon you'll enjoy the power cosmic. And he's like, no! And then he burns up. And Doom says, I knew he hadn't fixed it because he hated me, and he would have used it on himself.
I killed his brother, he says, something like that.
Yeah.
It's just nuts.
Yeah.
It's great.
So why did Doom employ him in the first place if he thought he wasn't going to?
That's a great question. It's just Doom's arrogance. He wants him to get some of the work done.
He thinks he's in charge of. He thinks he's the master of all. He knows everything and everyone. He's completely arrogant.
Yeah. I will say
why would he even? Well, I guess Doom is a scientist himself, and he would have known if he was just building a big death box. Yeah. So it did actually have to channel the power cosmic in some way.
And a sorcerer. He's also a sorcerer. There's some discussion about Doctor Strange in here, and he's like, I'm not going to go learn from that guy.
You know, he thinks
just to know one.
He thinks about apprenticing himself to Stephen Strange, and he says, nah, I can't.
I'm just going to steal that somehow.
I can't do that.
Yeah. So it kind of covers all those aspects. I will say what I think is the worst Doctor Doom story is after 9/11, J. Michael Straczynski wrote this issue of Spider-Man. It was like a tribute issue to the towers. And Doctor Doom shows up in New York, and he's at Ground Zero, and he sheds a tear. He sheds a tear for the 3,000 dead in New York. This man has tried to kill all of New York many times over. Yeah. Somehow, he's really upset that Al-Qaeda, maybe he was jealous. But I think
I wanted to do it.
But I think there was a caption from Straczynski saying like even Doom is can't handle this.
Yeah,
I've repressed my memory of that issue.
That's a famously reviled panel.
Yeah,
you often see it on social media and stuff. It's just like the lowest a comic can get, really.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, okay. So this movie has an interesting take on Doom, but we'll get to that.
It does.
So this came out in 2005. So one of the second timely things. So the first timely thing was that woman who believed that Dr. Doom was a good ruler, was convinced, was brainwashed. And the second one was I wanted to get this one out in time for Black History Month because this is directed by Tim Story.
Yes.
Who had also done the remake of Taxi and Barbershop. After this, he did Shaft. Fortunately, these two movies did not kill his career. He's still doing okay. He had a movie called horror movie called The Blackening, which is pretty good, just a couple of years ago. Another interesting timely thing. So this movie's written by two people. One is Michael
France. Yep.
who had written the 2003 Hulk movie and the 2004 Punisher movie.
Yes, that's right.
And Fox is like, hey, you write flops for us, come back and write this Fantastic Four movie. I don't understand what's going on here, but he's written these 3 in a row. And the other person that wrote this was Mark Frost, who was the co-creator of Twin Peaks with David Lynch. So he's been all over the news the last couple of weeks as well since David Lynch passed away. I thought that was an interesting, weird coincidence.
Huh. That is a coincidence.
Yeah.
But of course, those are the 2 credited writers.
Yes.
This film. This film was in development for about 10 years.
Yeah.
There were a lot of writers.
Right.
Yeah,
and I also noticed
we should mention that this is the movie that they decided to make or to put out instead of the one that we talked about before from 1994.
Right.
And they went through like multiple directors and
I can tell. I got it all written down, Tim.
Okay.
If you can wait till the trivia section.
I did love when the credits start, it says from Fox Studios in association with Constantine Film.
Yep.
And
that's
Marvel
a name we
Enterprises.
recognize.
And I was like, oh, that guy didn't have anything to do with this. He just collected that royalty money for owning the rights.
Yep.
But I was just amazed to see a big shiny Constantine Film logo like come up on screen. Okay, so it opens with
we get some very quick credits.
Pretty quick credits. It starts basically with a Dr. Doom's, this giant statue of Doom, Victor Von Doom.
Yeah, who isn't in armor yet.
No, but it's got all these rivets on it, so like if you're a nerd, you know it looks like what his armor's going to look like. And it might be the art style of the country of Latveria, because they have also made a little helmet, like a sculpture of his face, also out of this kind of metal rivets.
From the grateful people of Latveria, it's the Doom mask.
Yeah,
there's no reason why he would have that.
The weirdest gift ever.
But I guess maybe the rivets, that's the way they make art. It's the current trendy thing.
They're a nation of welders. Perhaps that's their
maybe that's it. Yep. Okay, so basically we get Reed and
Ben Grimm.
Ben show up. They're looking for funding for this project, this cosmic race. So our actors here are this guy named Ian Grufford.
Owen Griffith. He's a Welsh actor. Owen Griffith. I know him. He played. He did a good run on Horatio Hornblower for the BBC.
Oh, okay. I didn't know him from anything.
Yeah, he's done some Aussie telly actually.
Okay.
He was I don't know if you wouldn't have watched. You don't watch a lot of Australian TV. But he played a pathologist or something in a TV series called Harrow here in Australia.
Okay.
He's a workman-like actor. He hasn't had a lot. I think this was his main kind of starring role. But he's a decent actor. And Michael Chiklis.
Actually, I like him in this. Much like the 94 version, I think we have a very well-cast Reed Richards.
Yeah, he's really good, I think. And Michael Chiklis is Ben Grimm.
Yeah, and he was at the time kind of a star because he was on The Shield on TV, which had run from 2002 to 2007. So this was right in the middle of his stardom. He's kind of disappeared a little bit since then. I'm not sure. Maybe he's out there somewhere in the world of streaming. Maybe he's really busy and I just have no idea about it. But he was kind of a big deal at the time. Okay, so they go in to see Dr. Doom, who's played by Julian McMahon. Now,
this is an Australian actor.
Australian actor. So I need to open a tab on this because I tried to schedule some Australia Day episodes and we didn't schedule them quite right. Like they came out too early. We did these 2 Australian movies. Then we did this movie called The Surrogates, but actually one of the main actors in that, Rhonda Mitchell, who played Peters, was on one of those soaps. She
was on Neighbours. Yeah.
Okay. So we did have like a major Australian. Now we've got another one. This guy, Julian McMahon. And we also...
And the son of an Aussie prime minister.
This was the other thing. When we were talking about the second
That's right.
Barry McKenzie movie, we had a question. I don't think we said, because the PM was in that movie, and we're like, we don't think a Australian prime minister has ever appeared in another movie. Well, his son has.
Yes.
Because he's in this just 2 weeks later.
That is amazing. Yeah. His father is Billy McMahon, a famously hopeless Australian Prime Minister.
Yeah, only was Prime Minister for about a year, I guess.
Well, I don't... Yeah. So this guy, I mean, this actor seemed hopeless to me. I mean, I felt like he didn't have any charisma.
He's quite a handsome man.
He's very handsome.
He used to work as a model.
Okay.
And at this point, I think in his career, he was a big star on a television show called Nip Tuck, where he played a plastic surgeon.
Right.
He had a few roles in Hollywood movies. I think he played a villain in a few of them. And since then, I don't really know what he's been doing. But I don't know, maybe he doesn't really get this, or it's not his kind of material.
Yeah.
Because he's supposed to be the villain, but he's hardly in it.
Right? Well, his whole thing is he's got a satellite with this shielding. So there's this
it's a space station.
It's a space station, sorry.
Well,
it's not a cosmic rays, it's a cosmic cloud, which Reed wants to study because he believes this cloud influenced human evolution, like it was here in the past. It's like the monolith from 2001, except it has random effects.
I must say, I really do like this. I think the first 15 minutes of this movie are pretty good because it's just bang, 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 bang. We find out everything we need to know.
They have their powers 20 minutes into this.
Yeah. In the first 5 minutes, I know everything I need to know about Doom, about Ben Grimm, about Reed Richards. It's actually pretty good, like
Sue and Johnny.
Yes, they come in almost in the next scene, but
Sue's in that first 5 minutes. This first scene, which essentially goes for about 5 minutes. Johnny's the only one that's not in it. All the other characters are in it, and just through dialogue and the performances, I just know everything. I know that Ben is Reed's rough mate who backs him up. I know that Reed is very smart but a bit hopeless. We know that Doom is uber competent but a bit sinister and is also jealous of Reed.
And he has a space station with the shielding which will protect them. And I'm like, remember, guys, when there was a time when these kinds of characters were only in comic books and movies? the rich, arrogant jerk that has all the space gear. And there was something kind of nostalgic about seeing this.
Yeah.
And this other scientist has to come and beg him for money. But there's some bits that are not clear. So we learned that Reed knows Doom already because they've been in college together.
Yeah. Yes, they went to MIT together.
And Sue had been an ex-girlfriend of Reed's. Now they're not connected. She comes in. She's a director of genetic research here.
Yeah, which is just a throwaway line, and she never does anything genetically related to
well, not only a throwaway, in the next moment, she says she's going to schedule the launch.
I noticed that too.
Like, why is it your job to schedule the launch if you're the genetic researcher? But it wasn't clear to me what her relationship with Doom was. He puts his hand on her back, but I'm like, are they romantically involved? And
it's vague.
Even this 2 scenes later when he's about to propose to her, I'm like, have they ever been on a date?
We don't. It's not clear. In fact, it takes a bit. The movie's mostly over before we find out that no, they're not an item.
Right.
But the movie's been telling us they're an item. You don't propose to someone you're not dating.
Well, I don't know.
Or maybe you do if you're an arrogant.
I don't know. I what I was picking up from it was that they were an item, although not serious. She didn't think of it as seriously as he did. Maybe.
Yeah, maybe.
Certainly Ben took them to be an item, and Reed took them to be an item.
Yeah.
Part of it, yes.
We did too.
Well, it seems like they are.
Yeah.
But we eventually find out that they're probably not. But it's not clear. I mean, he shows up.
I think by late in the movie, she's kind of bailed
well,
because he turns out to be evil.
It makes it seem a bit dodgy, like that. The way that the film is the way the film presents the relationship, or the way it's edited, makes it seem like she's sort of stepping out on Dr. Doom. Like she's in a relationship and yet she's pursuing Reed at the same time. It seems a little inappropriate.
Well, there isn't a scene where she says, "I'm through with him," or "I'm dumping you, Victor."
Right. Yeah.
There is in the extended cut.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So I thought when I did a little reading before I started watching the film, and I noticed that there are 2 kind of cuts: the theatrical cut, which we watched,
okay,
and there was an extended cut that came out on DVD in 2007.
Okay.
that everyone says is better.
Oh, okay.
And I thought, oh, great, we're probably going to watch the extended cut. No, we didn't. But I did go online and I watched all the deleted scenes. And some of them really should have been in the movie. And one of them is a dinner with Dr. Doom, or with Victor Von Doom and Sue Storm, sort of about midway through the film, where after he's already tried to propose to her once, that scene that we get, he shows up again with the ring. And she sits down and she basically tells him, there is no us. This is all in your head.
Okay.
You know, we were never an item. And then she gets up and leaves. Oh, no, he gets up and leaves and he crushes the ring in his hand because he's already got superpowers.
Okay. Yeah, that would have been useful. I saw on Wikipedia that there was a cut scene with, like, Reed takes Wolverine's face or something. I didn't
I want to talk about this.
Understand that.
But yes, that does happen as well. In the scene where they're out on the pier or what have you, and they're talking about their relationship.
Oh.
In our cut, the theatrical cut, he sort of does the Chad face. He
says, I could be a handsome man. He has a big chin.
And he gets a huge lantern jaw, and his cheekbones become... It's kind of like the filters you can get on your phone to make yourself into a... in the original edit, he changed his face into Hugh Jackman's face.
Oh, okay.
Wolverine's face.
Right.
For why? Well, why? Well,
apparently somebody asked that question and they decided not to put it in the final cut.
I want to talk about it a little later. I have my theory. I have theories.
Okay.
Or a theory that I want to get into a little later.
Well,
but
okay.
Yes, when a deleted scene comes up, I'll mention it.
Okay.
But we can return to the film.
Let's rewind a little bit. Tim, I want to know your take on Julian McMahon as Dr. Doom and whether he's a good actor or a charismatic character or what's your take on this guy?
Well, I mean, he's the kind of slow burn, calm, but evil guy. I thought it worked for me. He came across as early on trying to seem like he was a good guy, but kind of giving hints that, and of course, if you're a comic fan, you know that he's going to turn out to be a bad guy. But he gradually becomes worse and worse. And I think that the Rays kind of drove him mad a bit. And
it's implied, but yes, you're right, Tim. I agree I think Vince McMahon has done his best with the material he's been given, but there's problems with the material. Julian McMahon, sorry. Vince McMahon.
Ed McMahon?
No, I said Vince McMahon, the wrestling
guy, yeah.
Yeah, or Ed McMahon.
Ed McMahon, yeah.
Sorry. But I think he's done the best with the material he's been given because this isn't the Doctor Doom we know. Yes. This is Norman Osborn.
Yes, I thought that throughout the movie. Once the project goes wrong, the board tries to fire him, which is what happened with Norman in the Spider-Man movie.
Yes.
He gets revenge on the board members, which is from the Spider-Man movie. And if we're saying that the Rays turned him insane, that is what the Goblin fluid did to Norman Osborn.
This film is in the shadow of Sam Raimi's Spider-Man movies, I would say.
Yeah, they've tried to make 3 years after the first Spidey movie.
Yep.
Yeah.
So that's essentially. Yeah. So that's what's happened. They've tried to make him another Norman Osborn rather than and that's I mean, in the deleted scenes we get a little bit more character progression. He's a bit more manipulative.
Right.
He gets some extra scenes where he's trying to manipulate Johnny. He takes him out in a limo. He has beautiful women draped all over him, beautiful women draped all over Johnny, and he's the one that suggests Johnny that they do merchandising. So that's where Johnny gets the thing doll from later on.
Okay,
but it's not really clear why he would go mad. I mean, no one else goes mad from the cosmic rays.
Well, everybody's the effect on everybody's random, which is why. See what the
it doesn't seem to affect anyone else mentally though, because
but one guy's stretching, one guy's turning on fire, and one person's turning invisible. This is my sorry. Go ahead, Tim, and I'll
the other confusing thing is that when the cosmic rays are coming, Victor tries to protect himself and closes the shield, and the four are outside the shield, and so you would think Victor wouldn't be affected.
We were meant to think that, but he has one line where he says, "I was affected. You forgot about me. I was
He's turning
exposed."
into the Shield. It's like the Fly, where he fuses with the Fly. He's fusing with the shielding.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the shield was not very useful, I guess.
No,
I don't think he managed to close it. It's not clear. And in fact, his whole plan, I mean, we're going to talk about this, but his whole plan isn't clear, partly because of these cutscenes, but also
much like last time.
Yeah.
It's amazing how much this movie is like the previous movie, but we'll get through all that kind of stuff.
All right.
I mean, this Doom is different from what's in the comics, but I don't know. I think the MCU has kind of knocked all but that's not how it is in the comics out of me.
Sure.
I mean, once you've seen the MCU version of Taskmaster, which was scandalous, I mean, anything else is like no problem.
Right.
Sure.
Right. Okay.
That's fair. But they don't seem. I mean, he's just so much like Willem Dafoe's Green Goblin.
The story-wise, narrative-wise, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Coming up, trying to fix a plot hole by creating a new plot hole. Powers related to character personalities, again, and more. By the way, don't forget we have a voicemail. To leave us a message, click the Leave a Voicemail link on the sidebar at deconstructingcomics.com. This podcast is part of the Deconstructing Comics Network, where we're grateful to our supporters on Patreon. Patrons get exclusive extra content. At $2 a month and up, hear Bat Bits, a Batman 66 exploration with my brother Paul. At $4 a month, you also get our new monthly show Silver Age Batman, where I discuss Batman comics from the 50s and 60s with either Paul, Patrick, Emmett, or Kumar, as well as our previous series on Jim Starlin's run on Captain Marvel and the first 50 issues of Amazing Spider-Man by Stan Lee, Steve Ditko, and John Romita. Check it out at patreon.com/deconcomics, and thanks for your support. The law of equivalent exchange has finished. But Patrick and I want to keep doing chapter-by-chapter discussions of manga, so we've changed the podcast's name to Full Manga Alchemists, and we're beginning a new season discussing Hitoshi Iwaaki's Parasite, a science fiction horror series that began in 1989. Same podcast feed, new name. Find it wherever you listen to podcasts. That's Full Manga Alchemists.
Okay, here's the thing I want to say about the Cosmic Rays that was driving me crazy. So, every one of these movies, every superhero movie, and we've seen it now twice in Fantastic Four, they try to kind of explain a plot hole in the comic, and they introduce other plot holes. So they've papered over this thing about the Cosmic Rays with saying, oh, these cause human evolution in the past. If we study these, we could cure all these diseases and stuff. Wait, so you're telling me this cosmic cloud bathed the Earth at some point 5 million years ago, and it mutated every creature in a different way? Some were on fire, some were invisible, and then we're the ones that survived out of the monkeys, or out of the apes, the primates that evolved into us?
The cloud just represents potential. I mean,
I'm saying it's you've tried to fix one problem and you've introduced another stupidity. You've erased one stupidity, now we got something else because you thought you were being clever about it. And I think this movie does that a lot, as the previous movie did, as every superhero movie does. They always try to come up with explanations for things, and then it's like, wait a second, this doesn't make any sense. Okay.
I'm okay with it. I kind of liked it. So when you brought it up, I kind of liked it. Because this is part of the kind of economical storytelling that we get in the first 5 minutes of the film. We just say, look, the origins of life on Earth are not well understood. He's saying, a cloud did it. Millions of years ago, a cloud did it. And the cloud's coming back. We should explore it to see if it has any potential to improve or evolve people in the present. And that's it. I mean, you don't need to think too hard about it.
Yeah, but it's okay. So it's like the way they use the word quantum in the current MCU movies, right? They throw around the word quantum without knowing what the word means.
Yeah. Sure. I mean, it's just cosmic. It's a cosmic cloud.
Yes.
I mean, I like it better than Colossus, which was last time we got together. Yes. The comet, the magic comet. That was an energy source or something. Here, at least, we established from first principles that the cloud mutates things.
Yes, that's true. That's true. So they're gonna go up there with Sue. One more thing in this opening scene. We will get through this opening scene. This establishes this movie making jokes about being hothead and stuff right out of the gate, and I did not like it. It was cheesy. Like
personality powers.
When Reed comes in and says he gives his whole plan to Doom, and Doom says, "Oh, same old Reed, always stretching." I just wanted to stab myself. It was like, how many lines? And there's a lot of this throughout the movie, like again and again. You're hard-headed, you're hot stuff, all that kind of just again and again. And it started to drive me a little bit crazy.
So this movie's leaning into the personality powers thing that we talked about, where the cloud, I guess.
But they never say it explicitly.
They don't say it, which is fine. And also, I think this is kind of Marvel style quipping as well.
Yes.
Like if you're a fan of the comic, you know that most people know Mr. Fantastic is stretchy.
Well, if you looked at the poster of the movie when you went into the cinema, and it shows all their powers on the poster, I think
many people going into the cinema not knowing who the Fantastic Four were.
Of course. But I'm saying that that's kind of makes it too obvious because they just keep doing it. I don't know.
Sure. I think it's clumsy, but I hear this. I mean, to me, this sounds like MCU style like quips.
Yes, but I would say in the early MCU movies, the quips were better.
Sure.
They were maybe clever or more fun. This is like a kind of cheesy foreshadowing.
Good. All right, let's advance the plot.
Okay, let's advance. Yeah, so now they need the pilot. The pilot is going to be Sue's brother, Johnny Storm. He's a guy who likes motorbikes. He's an expert in all extreme sports, which is unusual. Usually guys good at snowboarding or dirt bike stunts or motorbike racing. Not all of them, but this guy is awesome.
Oh, don't forget piloting spaceships.
He likes making out with chicks while he's on a motorcycle and she's in the car next to him.
This is Chris Evans.
Chris Evans. Okay, so we better we got to blow the trumpet for Chris.
It's his third appearance on our podcast, Tim.
Scott Pilgrim and Snowpiercer.
That's right. That makes him an all-star.
Yeah.
Also, Jessica Alba's second appearance after Sin City.
That's right, which came out the same year.
Yes.
Yeah.
Big year for her.
Yeah.
And I have to say, it was looking back, it's really odd that I never saw this movie in the theater because I was totally ready to see Jessica Alba in the movie theater.
In her underwear.
But the less said about it, the better. But the state of my life at the time just didn't accommodate seeing movies much at all, even at home. But why it took me 20 years to get around to it, I'm not sure.
Had you not seen it until this week, Tim?
Right.
Really? Oh, that's amazing.
Me too. I had never seen this before.
I think I saw it. I must have seen it on DVD or something. I don't think I saw it at the cinema.
I do want. So they're broken up, right? But I have to say they're a very attractive couple, these two, and I was like rooting for them to get together because they were both so telegenic on screen together. They just look great together. I was like, yeah, let's do this.
Yeah.
When we could talk about Chris Evans because he shows up. I mean, this is a perfect physical specimen. And I think this is like his first big movie. He'd been in like Not Another Teen Movie at this stage.
Yes, he had.
But he comes in here and he just has this angelic face and he's so jacked. Like his shirt is off. And I'm like, I didn't see Not Another Teen Movie. I don't know if he ever took his shirt off in it. But you can tell this guy is movie star material.
He's naked in Not Another Teen Movie with whipped cream on his dick.
Right, okay. Because you can tell he's movie star material in this. He's really good in this movie, and he looks amazing.
Yeah, this is I suppose pre-MCU, everybody's jacked. Because you remember, everyone always loves...
That's right. Nobody was this cut at this stage.
Everyone loves to show Hugh Jackman in the first X-Men movie compared to Hugh Jackman in Deadpool versus Wolverine. Yeah. And they're like two different people.
Yeah.
One looks like a fucking Ken doll, and one looks like a regular guy with his shirt off. But Chris Evans does not look like a regular guy with his shirt off. He's cut.
No. He's huge. And in the first shot in the movie, we see him on the bike, kissing that girl, and then they come in for the mission, and he's in the blue suit, which is going to be the Fantastic Four suit. made of unstable molecules, and his package is very prominent in this scene.
Yes.
Well, actually,
Did you see this? Okay, yep. Go to
actually, about the suit, if I understood correctly in my second viewing, the molecules became unstable as a result of the cosmic rays.
No. They say
they were
Reed is
unstable
examining the
beforehand.
suits, which these are doomed suits because it's his space
Yep.
mission, and they're like, "Oh, they're made of unstable molecules." I've been working on the same thing, is what he says. There's a line of dialogue.
I don't know whether I should be flying or doing Swan Lake in these suits. I mean, who the hell came up with these?
Victor did. The synthetics act as a second skin, adapting to your body's individual needs.
See, now that means it keeps the hot stuff hot and it keeps the cool stuff cool.
Wow. Fantastic. Material made from self-regulating unstable molecules. I've been working on a formula for this.
Great minds think alike.
Okay,
When they
well,
go
but later though, after the accident, I thought he said that the cosmic rays had altered the
Yes.
suit.
So what happened is because the suits have unstable molecules, so they adjust to your body. So if your temperature goes up, the suit adjusts, et cetera, et cetera.
Okay.
So when their bodies get changed in space, the suits also get changed to match their bodies because of the unstable molecules.
Our uniforms were exposed to the storm, like us, so they can transform like us. Becoming invisible, changing size on demand, or remaining impervious to flame.
So invisibility becomes invisibility, stretching becomes stretching, like that. Fire becomes fire. So it's kind of two stages. They were unstable to begin with, but because they were unstable, they were able to mutate when the body's mutated, which is a bit like if you change your car from unleaded to leaded and then it affected the paint job. I don't quite buy it, but he did say they were unstable molecules in the first place, so maybe that's how we're supposed to assume it worked. But again, they've tried to explain away this thing that didn't make sense in the comics, and actually they almost didn't need to because, well, they kind of did, but I mean, we don't get when they crash to Earth and jumping way ahead, we don't get the whole thing we've had in every previous version where they start demonstrating their powers immediately in their street clothes, and the street clothes catch fire, turn invisible, stretch with no explanation.
Oh yeah, sure, with no explanation. Yeah.
So this
but
time
we do get that.
We do get here
but
they're not. Their street clothes aren't affected. Like Reed stretches, but his clothes don't stretch.
No, Reed's the only one. Reed's the only one who
He catches fire, but his clothes burn up. She turns invisible, but her clothes are still there, visible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So
and Ben obviously Ben Grimm rips through his clothes when he turns into thing.
Yeah, so they don't make that mistake in this version.
No, only Reed stretches.
No, he stretches, but his clothes don't stretch.
We don't really
He's wearing
see
a short sleeve
No,
shirt.
because he reaches for the he's wearing a short sleeve shirt, and he reaches for a glass that falls, and his arm stretches.
ball.
Later on, when they're on the bridge, he stretches to rescue that guy that falls off the bridge, and he's still in his civvies, but we don't really see what's happening.
We only see his arms and legs. We don't see his clothes.
Yes, you're right. So it's fine. Yeah. Incidentally, speaking of packages,
yes,
there was a rumor going around at the time that Owen Griffith had to have his package digitally minimized. No, the reverse.
Holy Burt Ward.
Okay.
It was, I read an interview with them, a contemporaneous interview at the time where they sort of laughed and tiptoed around it a bit, the actors, and joked that yes, it was true, that it was sufficiently, it would have been too distracting for the audience. And so,
you know what? There's apparently a story about that, and Willem Dafoe.
Yes, Lars von Trier. Lars von Trier said that his in a nude scene, his penis was confusingly large.
You had to digitally reduce it.
God joins. If true, Owen Griffith joins a storied crew of like spandex wearing men who are not allowed to bulge.
Yeah.
Wow. Apparently, most recently in Black Panther 2, the actor that plays Namor.
Yeah, I don't know who that is.
Apparently, I don't know who he is, but apparently he had to have a little bit of concealment.
Huh. Okay.
It is black trunks.
Right.
And the guy that plays the Deep in the Garth Ennis TV series.
The
Boys.
Yeah.
So it's a problem for us men. sometimes.
By the way, these suits, when Reed examines the suits, he calls them fantastic. See, get it? Get it?
Nudge, nudge.
Fantastic.
Yeah, we get it.
Okay, they go up in the space shuttle up to the space station. The CG is terrible.
Yeah. It really is.
It
2005.
looks like Star Trek Voyager.
They're on a space station. There's gravity on the space station.
There's gravity. I wrote that down. Space station gravity. Wrote it in my notes.
Ruined. Immersion ruined.
Yes, this is the moment when Victor decides he's going to propose to Sue. We don't know if they've been dating, but he has a ring. He has a ring. He says, I'm going to say the 4 words that are going to change our lives. And then this is actually a good line because he says the 4 words you think, will you marry me? And then Reed interrupts and says, the cloud is accelerating.
Yeah, it's good. I love the first 15 minutes of this movie.
Yeah. Yep. So the cloud comes in. We get lots of bad CG of the whole team being blown apart by these rays. In a sense, the concept is cool. It's a lot cooler than the visuals we had in the comic where they're just bathed in this kind of light. Or in the previous movie, did we even get any kind of effect? It's kind of a good idea. It's just the CG isn't executed.
It was fine for
in a satisfying way. Yeah,
it doesn't look good to us now.
Yeah.
Ben is he's doing an EVA. He's outside the space station at the time, and he's taking sort of samples, plant samples, animal samples in glass containers, and he's placing them outside where they'll be bathed in the radiation. But he's caught out there, and that's why they get caught in the storm, because they're trying desperately to bring him back in. Meanwhile, as Tim pointed out, Julian McMahon is cowering inside the space station trying to close the shields, but he doesn't quite pull it off, and he gets maybe less of the radiation.
Yeah, and maybe Ben got the most, and that's why he doesn't change back.
Maybe, because it's a plot point later on that he needs more radiation, although we're never told that. In fact, what Doom wants is never clear.
Yep.
Which is a real shame, because he's supposed to be carrying the film as the villain. And yet he's hard. We don't see a lot of him.
Well, yeah, it seemed like he just wanted some kind of revenge. Exactly for what, I'm not quite sure. But
well, we know that at this stage he wants Reed. He says Reed is always right, so he doesn't he admits that to Sue, which is why he agreed to the mission, because he talks to Reed as if Reed's an idiot, but actually he does believe that Reed's right about the cloud.
Well, he says Reed is always right, but then he follows it up with a caveat, which I don't remember. But it's something like. But it's something like he's always right, but not at the right time, or he's always right, but he doesn't have all the information, or something like that. And we're going to get the sense that Doom likes holding something over Reed. He enjoys being the one that gets to say yes or no. To bail him out.
I'll give you the line: Reed's always right. Good thing he doesn't always know what he's got. Planning to steal his research, basically. Because he can't come up with anything on his own, like other tech billionaires we might know.
But that evaporates because everything goes wrong.
That's right.
And the space station is damaged. The board, like Norman Osborn in Spider-Man 1, his Doom Corps stock is in free fall because Doom is the CEO in this universe, and the board's going to oust him. He has a week to turn it around. So what does Doom want? Does he want to save his company? That's why Norman Osborn uses the serum on himself. But in this film, what does he need to do?
Yeah, good question. Really good question.
It's never clear.
Yep.
I think the deleted scene kind of helped because it implied that he wanted to monetize the Fantastic Four,
right,
in some way, shape, or form. But that was cut, so he's just sort of grumbling and being jealous.
Right.
It's not really enough to carry a villain's motivation.
Yeah. 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 Well, it wasn't.
You stole my girlfriend. I'll get you.
Yeah, that's it. It's like you stole my girlfriend, except she's not his girlfriend.
Yeah, it's like the '94 version where he changed plans like 3 or 4 times over the course of 80 minutes.
That was charming, though. This is just annoying.
Yes. Yes. So back on Earth, the team is in quarantine. There's a funny scene with Ben where we assume he's going to be Rock Ben, and he says, "Get me a mirror," just like Jack Nicholson in
Yep.
Batman.
Yep.
Yeah,
And,
Johnny's saying, like, we'll get the best plastic surgeons to help you.
Yes.
And then we see the reflection, and it's normal human Ben, and
Yes.
then he loses his.
Good moment, and these
Very
two guys
funny.
kind of were doing it right, I think.
Yep. They had good kind of chemistry.
Yep. Agreed. And I have to say again, Chris Evans is really good in this role. And as far as I can tell from interviews, he seems like more of a Steve Rogers in real life than a Johnny Storm in real life. He seems quite modest and humble, so he's kind of not playing to type here. He's actually acting.
He's acting.
Yeah.
Wow.
He gave a good performance. In the interview I mentioned earlier, where they discussed Owen Griffith's package, they also asked them about being typecast or what they thought about being associated with the roles. Owen Griffith said, well, for the last 8 years, people have associated me with a guy called Horatio Hornblower. So if I get to be Mr. Fantastic, that's good. And Chris Evans was concerned about being typecast at this stage of his career. He said, I guess I'm worried because this is one of my first things. I could definitely fall into that little pigeonhole. But if the movie does well and they're making more and it would make me be pigeonholed, hopefully it would also make me kind of have more control and navigate the choices I make in the downtime between these movies. As you say, he sounds quite down to earth and grounded.
Yeah.
He says, my chief priority is to legitimize myself and as an actor and show range and versatility, which is quite collected for a random comic book movie interview. But yes, anyway, I mean, was he typecast? Yes and no, because he's done a lot of comic book movies.
Yes, yeah.
but he certainly hasn't been the Human Torch for the rest of his career.
No. Reed's hair has turned gray at the temples because of the cosmic rays.
Yeah, I thought that was odd.
That was odd. I wrote that down too.
I guess they wanted to have him look comic book accurate, but not have a huge age gap between him and Sue. And this
maybe that was
it. Of course, that's it. Oh, well done.
Right, yeah, because in the '94 film there was a significant age gap.
There was a big age gap.
Yeah.
Well, they did their best. It was 10 years or something like that. Like they really tried, didn't they? Because he was like a postgraduate student or something. But he was like 29 and she was like 19.
Yeah.
No, you're right. You're right. Of course, that's why they did that. Because I wrote that down too. Why would radiation make your temples go grey?
Yeah.
Not your whole head?
Yeah, not his whole head. Yeah.
Because they all went to university at the same time.
Yes.
Well done.
Yeah. Okay, meanwhile, Johnny's internal body temperature is going way, way up. The nurse is examining him. She can't feel the heat, even though we see on the screen that he's at like 200 degrees or something. Somehow she needs a thermometer.
Yeah, she needs the thermometer in order to know that.
But there's some funny lines in here where she talks about how hot he is. He says, I am hot and I'm not afraid to cry.
Whoa. Where do we think we're going?
I don't know if we've noticed, but the sickest runs this side of the Alps are right outside that window.
Yeah, I've noticed. But there are rules here. You can't leave until we
finish the test. I know I've never been good with rules. You let me know how those come out. Do you want to help me with the zipper?
This is not a ski resort.
Not yet. Luckily, Grandma still sends care packages, though. It's amazing. For an 80-year-old woman, you'd be surprised.
You are Trouble.
Trouble is my middle name.
Oh, you're hot.
Why, thank you. So are you. And I'm not afraid to cry.
No, I mean you feel a little feverish.
Well, I've never felt better in my life. My God, you smell good. Listen, when do you get off work?
4, but
Tell you what, you meet me at 4:01 at the top of the mountain. I'll give you a minute to freshen up. This is yours. Oh, that's mine. Nurses.
Which is one of the funniest lines.
He gets a lot of good lines.
He gets a lot of good lines. But he wants to go snowboarding. He doesn't want to be cooped up, which is a theme throughout the movie. He doesn't want to be stuck in here being poked and prodded. So he goes snowboarding with the nurse. It's very James Bond-like scene where they hop out of a helicopter and.
I thought Johnny's character was more fully comics in this, where we didn't really see the Daredevil side of him in the '94 movie. We just saw that he had a hot temper. And
that's right.
He's got that, but he's also got the Daredevil bit going on.
Yes, and every scene of Johnny doing stuff, we get obnoxious hard rock music that sounds like Nickelback or something, and it's
it's very late 90s, early 21st
very
century.
Generic and annoying.
Like Nickelback, that's a good comparison, yeah.
Yeah. But he catches fire while he's out there. And all his clothes burn off. As I said, this is like their clothes aren't protected in this version. They've thought this through.
He's in a puddle of steaming water at the end in a snowbank.
Yeah. He's formed a little hot spring around
and he just says, "Care to join me?" to the nurse.
Yes.
And she,
very Roger Moore kind of line.
Drops her ski sticks, and when we change.
It's implied that she's just going to strip off and get in there with him.
Yeah.
Instead of freaking out that he's naked in the snow.
Yeah. Meanwhile, Reed and Sue are having a little lunch in the cafeteria. They're trying to patch over whatever bad blood happened between them at university. She says, "I want to be seen and heard," and she turns invisible.
It's nice to be wanted sometimes, Reed. To be seen and heard. Look at me.
I can't.
What do you mean you can't? Look at me!
Sue, look at your hands.
In this movie, she seems to turn invisible when she's aggravated or angry. That seems to trigger it, a bit like the Hulk. But also, when she's invisible, she can't see herself. Like, she looks down at her hands and she can't see them. She's like, what? Whereas I think in other versions, like in the Roger Corman one, when she appears, they're like, "Sue, you're invisible." She's like, "What are you talking about?"
We talked about that, didn't we? We just thought maybe she didn't look down.
Maybe. Yeah, I don't.
Yes. All right. So this one establishes that she can't see herself.
In some scenes, but in others, I'm not sure. I'm not sure if it's consistent about it.
Right.
But anyway, it is triggered by anger, which is not a thing I think was ever in the comics.
No, I don't think.
Well, she gets emotional.
Yeah,
which is
I don't recall it being tied to emotion at all in the comics.
Which is a bit on the nose.
How does it help the narrative or the plot in any way?
No, it doesn't.
No.
In fact, and it feels like emotional woman.
Right.
Unfortunately.
Yeah.
Oh, those women, they're so emotional.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sadly.
Unlike men who aren't emotional at all.
Yep. So she drops a glass. Reed stretches his arm and catches it.
That was a bottle.
A bottle, yep. This is 20 minutes into the movie, so we're moving at a clip here. Like,
right. I love it.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's a shame because it doesn't last.
Yes. So they gotta go check on Ben. But the door is locked. He's screaming in there because something's happening to him. They hear all sorts of banging and noises. Reed he flans his fingers to go under the door to unlock it from the outside. It's really gross, actually. I thought it was interesting. It was gross. And actually, then Johnny shows up and says, "Gross." He said the exact word that I was thinking.
Yeah. Yeah, great. Ad-lib, apparently.
I thought it was good because it's like, it would be gross if you could stretch like that. So that was kind of interesting. I felt like it was unintentionally gross, but then when he said gross, I was like, okay, it is supposed to be gross.
Yeah. Well, Ben has left his abandoned ship.
Yes, he smashes through the wall of his quarters, runs out into the forest like Chief in Cuckoo's Nest, essentially.
Yeah, I thought of that too.
And
I didn't think of that.
And then Johnny Storm comes in and he says, "What was that thing?"
Yeah.
As he runs out. Okay.
Do you get it?
Get it?
Nudge.
But then he gets a Clancy Street, Yancey Street disguise.
Yancey
he gets
Street.
the
so
hat
good.
and the trench coat. Which we want this in
the Big and Tall shop. That's
Yeah,
our
big
introduction to the thing in the comic. He was in a menswear shop.
That's right. And we like it when he goes around in disguise. It's good. He had a fiance named Deb.
Now,
Debbie.
how did you know that she was his fiance and not his wife? Was there a line that I missed?
Yeah.
Oh, at this point, I wasn't sure, but wait a second. On the bridge, she gives him a ring. Was that a wedding ring or an engagement ring?
It's an engagement ring. I'm pretty sure I think they have a discussion, Reed and Ben have a discussion earlier on where I think it's revealed that he has a fiance.
Okay.
There are at least two conversations about her. One, I think maybe when they're on the space station or before, and then one after when Ben and Reed are looking at, like Ben says something like, you just need the love of a good woman or something like that. And Reed says, "Oh yeah, I'm happy for you and Deb." And he says, "Oh, I'm not talking about Deb." And they're looking down.
Yes, but okay,
Right,
Tim,
but that
Tim,
doesn't
you're right.
clarify the
Tim, you're right, because when
relationship.
he calls her, when he's in disguise, he calls her from a payphone. He says, "Remember when we used to say together forever, no matter what?" Which sounds like they're already hitched.
Yeah.
No, I'm pretty sure
Maybe
it's.
it could
I
be
don't
either
remember
way.
the line, but I'm pretty sure that they're engaged.
Okay.
I wonder why I can't
Yeah,
remember.
Wikipedia thinks they're engaged, so I
Wikipedia
don't
never
know.
lies.
Yeah,
But I don't-
that proves it. Yeah.
Okay,
proves
so we are introduced to Alicia later in this movie, but did this movie need 2 romance plots? Because we've got Sue and Reed as well, and I was kind of like, I like the things. I like it when the things romantic foibles in the comics and in if it's a movie or something. I didn't really need to see Reed and Sue try to patch this thing up from university. I just feel like
Wouldn't they have just been together from the start?
Yeah. But I guess maybe then Dr. Doom wouldn't have any motivation for killing a Fantastic Four.
Yeah. Well, he could have had
His
better
girlfriend wasn't
motivation.
stolen.
No, I'm with you, Kumar. They should have just been a couple already.
But yeah, I guess I could have done without Deb. Certainly, I think Ben should have done without Deb if that's all it takes for her to dump him.
Yeah, that was disappointing.
Okay, now I will say, and this is maybe a major problem with the movie, his change is pretty extreme. Like Together Forever, but you wouldn't expect this to happen.
Sure,
and I don't think any of these people would expect any of these things to happen, but they're all pretty calm and collected about it. They're like, "Oh, I can turn invisible. I can shred." These are things that don't happen in the world.
Mm-hmm.
Like you would expect some kind of from scientists to be really like, "Holy moly!"
Yeah, and it's not the MCU, so they don't know of anyone around them who's had anything like that.
Well, unless they know about Wolverine, which Jordan will elucidate us on later.
I will. But you're right, Kumar. I mean, they're less. I mean, in the comics, the Thing was always aware that he had drawn the short straw.
Yeah.
His powers were always on. He couldn't turn them off, and he was like a monster. Like, it was a recurring thing. He always wanted to change back, right? And the others were less concerned because their powers operated when they needed them to, and they were presentable the rest of the time. And I think the movie is really going out of its way to tell us that Ben's life sucks.
Yeah,
I think they want the kind of the tension or the kind of like the emotional heft of the Thing's story to be that he really wants to change back, and it's crap to be a big red rock monster, or a big orange rock monster, because his fiancée dumps him. First of all, she can't stand to be near him, and then after she literally sees him save people on the bridge when he's a hero and people are applauding him, she pulls off her ring and dumps it on the ground and walks away. Yeah. I've written down, what the hell is wrong with you? He is a hero.
Well, I think the importance of showing that his life sucks was more important to the producers than Deb acting like a human being.
Yes, but again, I'm saying that maybe it is a human reaction to actually freak out.
I suppose so. I don't know.
Maybe she's just really shallow.
Okay, here's another question about this: I don't exactly know what world this is, because in the opening scene, Reed has a BlackBerry that can project holograms, and I'm like, okay, do these kinds of things exist in the world, or is this his super invention that only he has?
Oh, good point.
And there's a few things in the movie that are like, oh, is this like a little bit of a science fictional world?
Well, there's that space station with the artificial gravity.
Exactly. Yeah, there's a space station with artificial gravity.
And then holograms. You're right, there are holograms in the first scene. Yeah.
So I'm not quite sure how people would react to a freakish thing like a guy turning on fire or turning invisible. Is it a level 5 reaction, or should it be a level 10 reaction? You know what I mean?
Well, yeah, I mean, the sexy nurse doesn't seem to care at all about Johnny turning into fire.
No, exactly. Nobody in this movie cares.
Except Deb.
Yes.
Yeah, Deb's the only one, because Beyonce's suffered a terrible accident. She just can't wait to dump him.
Join us next week for part 2, or listen to our entire discussion, but without audio clips, on the Comic Book Movie Oblivion podcast. Thanks to our patrons for supporting Deconstructing Comics, Critiquing Comics, and our other podcasts. To join them, go to patreon.com/deconcomics. At deconstructingcomics.com, you can connect to us on X, Facebook, YouTube, and Blue Sky, and find links to subscribe to the podcast. You can comment on any episode on our site, drop us a line at mail@deconstructingcomics.com, or talk to us. Click the Leave a Voicemail link on the left sidebar of our site. Are you making a comic? Send it to us and we'll do a Critiquing Comics episode about it. Our theme is by J.B. Anderton. The music backing the promotion of our Patreon is Change by Jazar. Next week, it's part 2 of our discussion of Fantastic Four 2005, including Jordan's rundown of the decade-long development of this movie. Till then, this is Tim, and thanks for listening to Deconstructing Comics.